Trustee Lawrence?
Here.
Trustee Lawler?
Here.
Trustee Leaflet? Trustee Healy?
Here.
Trustee Katsinas?
Here.
Trustee Malani?
Here.
Mayor Dodge?
Here.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the November 17th, 2025 Committee of the Whole minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole of November 17th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions about the minutes? Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Lawrence?
Aye.
Trustee Lawler?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Mayor Dodge?
Aye.
Passes. Any non-scheduled citizens and visitors for agenda-specific public comment?
Did Mr. Henry, you signed in for the agenda-related issue in the committee of the whole, correct? Yes. Okay. Would you come up, please, and identify yourself?
Michael Henry. Be easier to look at. Okay. What we're going to discuss. So everybody got it in their emails.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll share.
We have a bunch of discovery and.
If you could introduce yourself, Mr. Henry. Thank you.
Michael Henry. Been looking at the concert center for a while, and with the new Freedom of Information Officer, they finally got me documents that were helpful and moved forward. I also talked to some people back from 2010 who were in the engineering, and I could actually answer your question on why this pavilion was never built. The engineering and the people back then, after the 2010 ADA changes and regulations, went and looked at all the property around the proposed center. They realized that the parking lots proposed would need extensive grading, rebuilding, the tracks would have to be leveled, the underground crossway would have to be done at the cost of several $1 million. That's why it was never done. Now we're in the position of it's built, the lots aren't there. In these maps and plans, they detail just the 3 specific entrances to the facility. They show grades of up to 4.8 when what's only legal is 1.2 in feet upgrades. There is no curb cuts, no entranceways, no handicap access, no signing or anything else, and that's just on the facility. If you look at the sides, you can see I brought out the maps. I've given you the actual engineering plans that the village had. We have a letter from the engineer who designed this facility with a very interesting set of comments. They are ADA compliant, but only on what they were contracted to look at. So that raises a very big question on what happened with the contract and everything else. A copy of the letter is attached in the last pages of the document. So what we have is a concert facility that doesn't comply with ADA, needs extensive work, and a rough estimate is between $2.5 and $5 million to make it legal. It depends on, you really need the attorney here because you need somebody with ADA knowledge because the north lot of 153rd Street was built in 1990. This was prior to ADA compliance. That is the flat lot, but that's how they built the hilly lot that is the closest to the concert center. If you look at those hills and the path, they've built a tunnel underneath the railroad tracks that isn't ADA compliant at all. So now, on top of that, you've got to do the signage. So I just wanted to put this up there to know that it's not $12.5 million. The village, I'm sure their excellent engineering staff, well, I emailed them with the docs too, and give them a chance to look through it. But I think you're going to have a $2 to $5 million problem that you're going to have to fix to make it usable. Each time you use that facility, a minimum fine of, if the federal government comes in, is $75,000. On the second time, it's $150,000 and the fines go up. That doesn't include the state fines for violations of the ADA. And it also multiplies by how many people were deprived of access to the facility legally. That's it.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else sign in?
No other.
Okay, next item, please.
All right, for the record, trustee Leaflet is here at 6:05. Okay, financial recap of Centennial Park West Concert, 2019 to 2025.
George, want to give a brief overview of the item?
Yeah, we got a little PowerPoint here from Ray. If you could just run through your PowerPoint then.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and run through it. Good evening, Mayor and Board. Happy to give you a little rundown of the financial performance of Centennial Park West since 2019. So I'll give you a little history of the venue first. We first started hosting concerts at the site in 2011. Those were free shows back in that day where we brought in a portable stage. In 2019, we introduced the first ticketed concerts, and that you can see the bands that we had that night. So that was the first time that we actually had a concert where we sold tickets. In that same year, we also offered a free concert over Labor Day weekend with tribute bands. In 2020, we actually introduced the Centennial Park West concert series. So that was 3 concerts for 1 ticket price. Due to the pandemic, that was all canceled, and we ended up hosting 2 concerts in the parking lot. One was an in-person, or one part of the parking lot was in person with the stage that if you wanted to, you could sit in some boxed areas that we created out there. And then there were video screens, so if you wanted to stay in your car on the west side of the parking lot, you could stay in your car. So we had 2 concerts that summer. In 2021, we introduced and actually used the Centennial Park West concert series. So it was 3 days with 9 artists for 1 package price. So that first one was in 2021. In 2022, we had 2 concerts. Those were both ticketed, and they were individually priced. I think we found that people were reluctant to buy tickets for 1 price for 3 shows when they had an interest really in just 1 show and didn't want to buy for each of the 1 ticket for each of the 3 shows. In 2023, we broke ground on the Centennial Park West venue that now exists. That year, while we were under construction, we held 3 free concerts in the parking lot. So we just rented a stage and held them there. In 2024, the concert venue opened up. We had the concert series with headliners Gary LeVox of Rascal Flatts, Pat Benatar, and Mark Martel. It was a fun summer to start with the new venue out there. And then in 2025, we had 3 individually priced concerts. We had a sort of a yacht rock night featuring Pablo Cruz. We had Leonard Skinner and Trace Atkins. Ticket sales over the years, you can see them here from 2019 through 2025, range from 1767. In 2024, it was over 7,000 and just shy of 7,000 in 2025. The revenues, here you can see a rundown of the revenues. You can see in 2020, not much for revenues. That was the year of the pandemic, so we had the free shows. That was just alcohol. And I'll give you a little more information on the revenues. These are the total revenues for each of those years. Here's a breakdown of the revenues. So in 2019, you can see the ticket revenues. You can see the tickets, sponsorships, vendors, merchandise sales, the years that we sold alcohol. And last year we had vendors sell alcohol, and we took a take of the sales through cups, similar to what we do with the Taste of Orland Park. So there's a full breakdown of all the revenues with the totals there. These are our expenses since 2019. So some years, 2020 is an example, a low year. Last year was a pretty high year. Leonard Skinner was an expensive band with a lot of rider requirements, so that concert alone was a lot of last year's budget. And these are some of the expense highlights. Since 2019, again, you can see in 2025, entertainment services was the bulk of the expenses. There were some rentals and porta potties, and you can see the marketing, and then you can see the breakdown of how that relates. So some years, the numbers were included, the outsourcing and backline were included in one line item, and another year they were in a different line item, but they were still included in the overall total. And these are just highlights, so these are not the total expenses. If you add these up, they don't match the other numbers that you saw on the graph. These are just the highlights. This is the net since the facility opened or since we started selling tickets in 2019. You can see last year we had a substantial loss due to the expenses. We've had losses every year. The least year was in 2020 when we offered the free shows there. The 2019 and 2025 concert expenses total over $2.6 million. Revenue totals over $700,000, so it's a net loss of about $1.88 million. The concerts that we produced all those years were approved as a part of the budget process. The 2026 budget also includes funds for concerts at the venue, but those will be at a significantly reduced price, and that'll be the model next year as we do a feasibility study for Centennial Park West. The construction cost of the venue was $12.5 million. The 20-year debt service is projected to be $930,000 annually with an operating cost of $250,000 annually. So the 20-year cost without inflation is projected to be $36.68 million. Now, those are the highlights since 2019.
Open it up to the board for comments or questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Lawler?
this was all done without any sort of workable business plan. And as we heard from Mr. Henry earlier today, when we looked at the designer of the facility as well, did they have a lot of experience in designing concert venues? I mean, was that part of the resume?
They had a lot of experience in designing park sites. I don't know if I would say concert venues, but they did bring on consultants that had substantial experience in concert venues.
Okay, and then as of, just for absolutely no business plan whatsoever?
There was no business plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Trustee Healy?
You know, one of their things is called intangibles are hard to measure. And this whole period that is under question here is, you know, you've got that whole COVID thing where people were afraid to go out of their house. Some people were afraid to go out of their houses and that. And you look for intangible things to get people together and to raise their spirits and that. One of the best things for me that I remember, and still am so proud of that Orland did it, was they had a concert featuring the Chicago Bears as part of in this description. And it had Otis Wilson, Orland Park's very own Dan Hampton, and it had Steve McMichael, and this was, I'm so proud of it, because this was Steve McMichael's last public appearance in a concert venue, and I know it meant a lot to him, and it meant a lot to people associated with it. So that's the intangible thing. We can feel good about that part. And how do you put a price on it? It's very difficult. So comparing these things through the COVID era is pretty tough. Also considering that during COVID, all the villages received COVID money from the government to help the villages smooth over bumps in the way, like concert things that go awry. And so that's again, that's an intangible, or maybe it is a tangible, to see how much of that, could partially be offset against here. And the third thing that I noticed in here was that these corporate sponsorships were down last year. And I believe in enthusiastic management, and that the year before was 41,000 with fewer tickets sold. Maybe a more enthusiastic management might have helped things along, but I don't know. It's an intangible. So anyway, those are just my comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani?
looking at these numbers, you're kind of comparing apples and walnuts, really. At the beginning, we had free concerts. We broke ground. We had 3 more free concerts. So the number of tickets being low makes sense, right? We sold more tickets for paid concerts, which makes sense. There were expenses with paid concerts because the names were bigger, right? Okay, Leonard Skinner got out of hand. I'll say that was a little bit much, but we had to do it. To Trustee Lawler's point, a business plan, while this wasn't designed to be a business, it was an entertainment venue to provide an amenity to our residents and people from the surrounding area to come and enjoy themselves. we knew that going in, right? It wasn't always going to be a net positive. I think Taste of Orland has been net positive, what, 3 times?
I don't know
Maybe
specifically.
twice, right? So we do that every year, and everybody loves Taste of Orland, right? So maybe with some structure and maybe with a plan, we can right the ship and do things the right way and make something attractive for everybody. However, if we head down the road of just continuing to do free events, that's not a good win either, because there's going to continue to be expenses for free events too, right? So we have to have a mix of being able to generate some revenue to be able to accommodate the expenses, or we're just going to have an empty field where we might as well put soccer lines on it. So I mean, it's, we have to kind of, find a happy medium, I think. So, this assessment, I'm looking forward to see what comes out of it next year. And, maybe we'll, like I said, we'll find something that makes everybody happy.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Lawler?
Just a follow-up. I have no problem in investing in amenities. I mean, I think amenities are important. I also think free concerts and, goodwill in the community is a good thing to get people out. But we made a substantial investment on something with no real positive returns ever on it. And I just think that, moving forward, it should become a policy for the village that any amenity that we look to invest in, we do a business plan on it. I mean, Centennial Park West is a big investment. We're going to lose a lot of money on it this year when you consider debt service and operating cost, not to mention depreciation of the facility in the future and, upgraded operating cost. So those are some things that we need to look at, and like I said, the assessment, going forward was we're not going to tear it down, but the question is how do we use it moving forward? What's going to be the best impact? So hopefully we can find a way to hopefully right the ship and make it a better investment. But, I mean, this is unfortunately never going to be, a positive win for the village. I just wish we would have done a little more research into it, provided a business plan, because this is a lot of money at the Village of Orland Park that we could be using for other things. It's the Centennial Park West is sitting empty 355 days out of the year. Nobody's using it. Is that really a good amenity? I don't think so. The Orland Park Library isn't expensive. We see the tax levy tonight. It's an expensive, amenity, but it's used every day, almost every single day by hundreds of thousands of people. That's a good amenity. Centennial Park, Aquatic Center, it's used extensively for 3-4 months out of the summer. That's a good amenity. Some of our ball fields, those are good amenities. When we drop $12.5 million on a facility that sits empty for 355 days out of the year where we can't use it, 6 months out of the year, it's too cold and snowy. There's no way we can use it and recoup that money. If we had a business plan, we also might have looked at the negative effect it might have had on the neighborhood, right next to it. I can't imagine if we would have had 20 concerts in there every summer, the amount of noise. And, would that have led to lawsuits and people being very frustrated? So again, moving forward, any amenities that we do in the future, I think it's very imperative that we do a complete business case study for it, how we're going to use it, when we're going to use it, how many people are going to use it, and what the net effect it is going to have on our tax rolls. So leave my comments there.
Any other comments? Just Ray and staff for pulling together, appreciate it. Those are the numbers, and I think in the budget we're going to be adopting tonight, we will do a much deeper dive assessment, and then we'll have to talk about what the plan is for this facility going forward, right? It's built, it's there. There's been plenty of issues that have been brought up, so we'll figure this out. And into the current budget, we're not going for any big headliner acts. No. Correct? So we're trying to minimize the expenses while we take calendar 26 to really thoughtfully build a plan, which I think, George, you've seen it, and Ray, we've talked about this separately. What is the plan for this asset base in the village in terms of the expenses going forward? So, there's plenty of things that are good and potentially plenty of intangibles in the village, and then we have to put a price on it to set public policy. So we'll figure this out, and thank you for the update. We'll talk more about it during the budget. All right, thank you. Next item, please.
Tinley Creek Stream Bank Stabilization Construction Contract Award Recommendation.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Lawrence?
I move to recommend the execution of a contractor agreement between the Village of Orland Park and Copenhagen Construction, Inc. of Union, Illinois, as the lowest qualified response bidder for construction services for ITB number 25-049, Tinley Creek Stream Stabilization Project at a cost of $5,796,847 plus a 10% contingency of $580,000 for a total not to exceed contract amount of $6,376,847. And authorize the village manager to approve change orders not to exceed the contingency amount, and to authorize village manager to execute all related contracts subject to village attorney review.
Second.
So motion and a second. Any comments or questions about this item?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani?
before Kashid does his 30-slide-long presentation he's got tucked away here, first of all, want to thank him and all of the staff that have been working on this for years effectively, and to finally get this moving forward. So thank you for all the hard work.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Kashid, go ahead.
So, thank you, Trustee Malani. This is a long time coming. We've been working on this for about 13 years now, so I'm happy that we are here where we can move forward to the next step. So what the intent here, Mayor, is to give you a quick background. Trustee Malani, you mentioned a number of slides. Those are mostly pictures. I will not take time, but this is what I will cover in the next few minutes, literally. And
Do we start the timer, Kashid?
please.
Keep going.
So, because we have new board members that were not here to know the history, so I'm giving you a quick history. Both sides of Tinley Creek has been eroding for, in my mind, for decades, if not definitely since 2012 or before, because this project was conceived in 2012. This is a private creek. Most homeowners, as we learned, did not know that they owned the creek. Half of the creek is on one side, half of the creek on the other side. This is not a public owned creek, so that's one. And then MWRD nor Village is responsible for maintaining the creek, and that's where this whole thing started. So as I mentioned, this project was started in 2012. The first design was completed by MWRD at their expense in 2014. At the time, the village nor the MWRD were able to secure the required number of easements. We needed 31 easements, we only secured 9, and MWRD said this is not a viable number of easement for them to proceed with the project. So the project was stalled at that time. When we restarted the project in 2022, and the reason for that MWRD said is that either you take this project, move forward, or we're going to take the money back and then just put it back in the general fund. So $3.7 million was at risk. So we started the project. MWRD was not interested in leading the project, so they made us to lead the project. But they did put in another $100,000 towards the design. Because about 10 years had passed, more erosion happened, the project got bigger, so that's why it had to be redesigned. And so that's where we started the project. One more thing that happened in the last 4 years or so, the residents were very much opposed to paying for the repairs or paying for the maintenance. So MWRD and Village agreed that we will build the project, and then the village will be 100% responsible forever to maintain the improvements. What we also did is, in that process, towards the end of this project, that the property owners who did not offer easements to us, we removed them from the project. There are 4 property owners, and I'll get to you in those addresses for those in a minute. But 4 properties were removed from the project, and they are responsible for maintaining their portion of the creek. Now you'll see several pictures that will show you the extent of the problem. And my pictures are 4 years old. I did not take any new pictures. This picture shows you where the project starts. This picture is actually divided into two with this white line in the middle. The project starts on the north side at 151st, and when we go south, the right side is the south end of the project, which is about several hundred feet south of 159. All those red dots that you see, that's where we did the analysis, took pictures, understand what the problem is. So that's the project limit. Here are some pictures. I will not speak on most of those pictures except for a couple. You can see the problem, what we have. Trees are falling, banks are eroding. I want to talk about this especially this is Quail Hollow. You can see the foundation for Quail Hollow is visible. It was not like that when Quail Hollow was built. And you can also see Quail Hollow has been trying to protect their bank, but they have not been successful. You can see if you give it time, the foundation will erode enough that that building will be at risk. Give it enough time to it. I don't know how many years, but it will get to it if we don't do anything about it. So specifically that building, that's one example where that building is at risk of completely losing it. Here you can see another picture where some kind of wood retaining walls was built years ago, but it's not holding anything. Right now, it's just, there's no soil behind the wooden planks that you see. Another picture, exactly the same thing. This is, and you can see how close we are to the building. If you give it another 5 years or so, those buildings will be at risk. Another picture is showing exactly the same thing. You can also see the utilities are now visible. Those cables and wires and all of that, they are now visible. Trees have fallen into the creek and they will continue to fall. Anytime anything falls into the creek, it disrupts our flow of water. Tinley Creek is one of the 4 creeks in the village that takes care of our stormwater system. Just one more example how you can see yes, in this case, the house is further away, but the banks are eroding. So just a couple examples what we are doing. Most of the solutions we're offering is what we call stone toe. Basically at the bottom of the slopes, we will have lots of stone that is gonna basically slow down or stop the erosion of the creek. Or what we call is gabion wall, which is basically steel cased walls. So basically these are steel cages filled with stone, which basically protects the edges of the banks. That's most common, about 8,000 feet of our solution is this type of solution. And then the edges can be regraded with stone at the bottom and at top, so to protect the edges. That's just conceptual stage. These are the 4 properties that were excluded from the project. 8, for the record, I'm mentioning that so that it's permanently recorded in our system. 15437 T-Brook, 8448 T-Brook, 8430 Flamingo, 8434 Flamingo. Those are the 4 properties that did not offer easements to us, and we could not carry on because we do not have the right to access their property. So those 4 properties were removed from the project. Our village attorney sent them letters clearly identifying that in future, if there is any issue for water flowing through the creek in front of their property, they will be responsible for that maintenance. And they will also have to be responsible for complying with the water flow requirements for village and MWRD. MWRD is still participating at $3.7 million towards the construction of the project. The contract that we are recommending today is also complying with the MBE requirements that are basically imposed on the project by MWRD, so that will be applicable to $3.7 million. The remaining money that we are requesting for the project today will comply with the village contractual requirements. We had a request for bids on October 3rd, 2025. We received 5 bids. These are the results of those 5 bids. The lowest bidder is Copenhagen at $5.79 million, and that is the firm that we are recommending. Something happened to the slide. So what that means is that $5.79 million is for the contract, 3.7 is coming from MWRD. That puts us at a little over $2 million as our responsibility. The good part is that is 36% of our cost towards the total project. 64% is coming from MWRD. That's the best part about that majority of the expense is being paid by MWRD. That is with the understanding that we will not touch the contingency. One of the representatives of Copenhagen is sitting here in the audience. If there's any questions, we can ask them as well. And the next step for us, we have already issued an RFP for retaining an engineering firm who will provide construction observation, quality control, and other on-site related services. That's RFP has already been issued on November 21st, and we should be back here in about 4 to 6 weeks for another recommendation. Construction schedule, we are expecting to start the project in the next 3 months at the most, hopefully earlier than that, and then it should be one construction season in 2026. We should be wrapped up with substantial completion by the end of the year, 2026. Maybe a little bit of stuff may be done in 2027, and that is the end of my presentation.
Thanks, Rashid. Who'd you say was here from the?
Copenhagen, right there.
Got it. Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board?
Mr. Mayor?
I think that was Trustee Lawler, or Trustee Lawrence?
You go, Dina.
Trustee Lawrence, excuse me.
May I ask a question regarding the construction?
Sure.
So I don't know who would answer this, but the steel cages with the rocks inside, what about corrosion of the steel over time?
What we have a spec in that they are corrosion resistant. They have a typical life of about 25 to 30 years if we can properly maintain it.
Okay, so in 25 or 30 years, we are doing this again?
Not the entire project. There will be sections of the project where wherever water will be fighting with this system, that's where you will see that, but otherwise, we expect longer life than that.
Okay. And regarding the plants that will grow up between some of the rocks and help to stabilize, is that going to be native plantings with deep-rooted kind of, is that what the intention is?
That's exactly what it will be. There is a significant element on this project is landscaping, which will include native vegetation, grass, and other elements that you will see.
Okay, which would certainly, by being deep-rooted, help to stabilize.
That's exactly the intent.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Lawler?
Just a quick question. So you said that the village doesn't own the creek, that the homeowners on both sides own the creek.
That's correct.
Okay, so some of those houses in the pictures I see that are substantially farther away from the creek, so they theoretically don't have to worry about anything happening anytime soon to their structures. But it looks like some of the townhomes and apartments or whatever was there were probably built a little bit closer to the creek. So are we not looking at them to put any of the money in to recoup some of the cost? I mean, I know it's an important project for our waterways and the rest of Orland Park, so it's needed, but for instance, the building you showed with the exposed foundation, eventually that creek may destabilize their foundation and the building would be, have to be condemned. So are they willing to put any of the money in?
No, nobody is willing to. We had several public meetings here at the Village Hall, and I'm talking in excess of 10, and nobody is willing to pay. They believe this is a village infrastructure because we put water in it from throughout the village, and that's how the stormwater leaves the village. And they believe that not only the construction but also maintenance should be village responsibility.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Healy?
Kashid, that 3.7 grant, when did that come out? Was it 2012?
We secured that in 2014, I believe.
So it's 10, 11 years later. The value of money, it was the same amount then as it is today. So the value of money, we probably could have made twice as much use of it. theoretically back then.
That's true. MWRD at that time wanted to build it all with their own money. They were not asking any financial contribution from the village. But when it came down into 2022 or so, they said the project has grown in size because the erosion has continued, and they were not able to or not willing to increase the grant amount.
Well, I think we're fortunate in two things. One is that you guys, that the village manager and you guys have stayed with that grant to help make it alive today. And the second thing is we're fortunate that there wasn't any heavy rain in the last year. I've been by that stream on a heavy rain day, and those quiet pictures don't show you how deterioration can happen pretty quickly along that
Yeah,
stream.
even with what normal amount of rain, which would be, let's say, 2 inches of rain over 48 hours or something like that, if you look at that creek, let's say 48, 72 hours later, you will see significant volume of water pushing through that creek.
Moving through there. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Malani first.
Just really quick, you mentioned the 4 houses that didn't want to participate and they're on their own to maintain this. What's the recourse if they don't maintain their property?
Fifty-four easements, property-wise. There are several hundred people that live in those, or families live in those properties, but 54, we were stuck with last 6 that they were not giving us the easement, so we actually even started eminent domain. And in that eminent domain, 2 of them worked with us. We found a solution.
Playing it back, we don't have another situation like this in the future.
This
So part of our water, in preparing for our water rates, is to evaluate those creeks and to identify areas that have similar, if there's any similar problems occurring. So that is our plan, to do that so that we prepare when we do the water rates at that time, then we can budget for the projects. It could be dredging because the silt is filling in a lot of those creeks. It could be just there are properties that are publicly owned and privately owned as well in the village. So they have to maintain their private-owned creek areas as well.
Thank you, Joel. I guess, George, when we get done with the assessment, I think staff should bring back to the board a definitive and declarative set. These are the known issues so that we can kind of figure out what this policy looks like. Because, like I said, and what legal means do we have to say this is how the process some point in the future, somebody's going to come up here and say, oh, I didn't know, or the previous owner didn't tell me.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Leafbud.
I believe that I know the answer to this question, but I want to confirm, these people, most of them were represented by counsel, and it was thoroughly explained to them what the risks were and what their future looked like, and not then they've been thoroughly explained, they've been represented by counsel, they're still not going to participate, so, which is their decision, but then in
for the contractor. So all this new equipment gets put in, it's all set up, ready to go, and the water starts flowing. Am I wrong in thinking that as the water flows and the areas that are protected hold up, that the water is going to dig faster and makes sense. Just a gut feeling, I didn't do the engineering design, but I'm just,
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any other final questions or comments before we call the roll?
Good evening, Donna Pugh I'm a partner with the law firm of Foley and Lardner in Chicago.
And as a reminder, we're using this to incentivize or induce Dick's Sporting. Previously, the Dick's staff Dick's House of Sport containing either a two-level Dick's House of Sport with a minimum included in the redevelopment agreement that was also part of the term sheet was that if the tenant